The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham Food Bank in Beckton, who supply sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.
Massive, everywhere we go! Everywhere we go! 1, 2, 3, 4! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! Everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go! West Ham are massive, everywhere we go!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the West Ham Massive. Thanks for joining me. Please don't forget to drop a like on the stream, comment on it, subscribe to it, share it to your social media platforms, all that good stuff. Please, please do. Really does help the channel out and gets it out there to people that it wouldn't have otherwise done, quite frankly. So, yeah, that really would help us out. Thank you very much. I might drop the odd swear word. It is what it is. I'm a sort of South London boy, born and bred, a little bit rough and ready at times, as you can probably tell from my chin. Haven't had a shave for a few days. But if adult language does offend you, this probably isn't the place for you, because I may well let the odd one slip out. It is what it is. But if you're still watching, then we're going to get into Transfer Talk live. And I'd really like some interaction from you guys at opportune moments, if you don't mind. And if you're watching this latterly, if you're watching this after I've hit end stream, then I'd really appreciate you getting your comments in the section below. Please do. So, obviously, in the last couple of days, there's been a lot of rumours about one player and another. Aaron Wan-Bissaka for one. Crysencio Somerville is a deal that I think is as close to being done as it is before the pen's put to paper. But it looks like a lot of the due diligence has been put in place. All the rest of it. And then a little bit earlier today, a name pops up, a name breaks, and it would appear that this has come from absolutely nowhere, because I haven't heard this guy named at all. I haven't. You might have done. But I haven't heard this guy's name mentioned in connection with a transfer to West Ham United until today. And it would appear from the reports and from various news outlets that this is a deal that's very close to completion. And who am I talking about? Well, you've seen him on the thumbnail, and he's holding the World Cup, ladies and gentlemen. He's holding the World Cup. And his name is Guido Rodriguez. Now, I have to be honest, I don't know a great deal about the guy myself. So I've had to go away and do a bit of genning up on this particular individual. Now, a couple of things about him. There's a couple of tenuous connections to West Ham already before he's even walked into the building, if he indeed does, because of course, until I see the player, I'm sure like a lot of you guys, until you see the player holding the claret and blue shirt, smiling, shaking hands with the manager or Tim Stighton or whoever at London Stadium or Rush Green, you're not going to believe it until you see it. I'm the same. But he does have a couple of very tenuous connections to West Ham United already. Number one, he has played for the last 4 years at Real Betis in La Liga. Now, Real Betis last season had someone on loan from West Ham United. And that guy was Pablo Fornals. So this is me just thinking out loud. Has there been any conversations between those two at any point? His contract ran out in the summer, so he is a free agent. So this is actually a decent value for money signing in all essence. So I wonder whether maybe there was a little bit of conversations about, oh yeah, what's West Ham like as a club? Oh yeah, it's a really good sort of club. The fans are really passionate. It's good support. Whether maybe Pablo Fornals has had some sort of influence in it, even in a sort of small way, just conversations about the club in and of itself. Maybe, I don't know. There's also another connection in that he played between 2017 and 2020. He played for the team in Mexico, Club America. Now, Club America at that time had a player in their ranks who is now a West Ham player, and that namely being Edson Alvarez. Again, a tenuous connection. I wonder if there's been maybe some conversations that have taken place there. Beyond that, he's an Argentinian international. He's got 30 caps for the national team. He's been involved in their squads in 2 successful Copa America excursions in 2021 and 2024. And as I say, he also won the World Cup in 2022. He also was a member of the squad that won what is officially titled the CONMEBOL UEFA Cup of Champions in 2022. You may have heard it referred to colloquially as La Finalissima. That was played at Wembley, and from what I remember, it was a 3-0 win to Argentina against Italy. So this is a guy that has played at he's been involved in squads and played at a very high level internationally. As I say, he's been at Betis, playing in La Liga for the last 4 seasons. Before that, he was playing in South America, Central America. Obviously, he started his career in Argentina with the juggernaut that is River Plate. Obviously, they've got 2 superpowers over in Argentina. You've got River Plate and you've got Boca Juniors. He was at River Plate. Obviously, again, another slight tenuous link. Obviously, that's the club of Manuel Lanzini. But as I say, he's had 4 seasons at Real Betis, 5 seasons actually, 5 seasons at Real Betis. And in that time, he racked up in all competitions 173 appearances, 9 goals. He's a defensive midfielder. So he's essentially, I would suspect, going to renew his old acquaintance with the aforementioned Edson Alvarez. Now, just a little bit here, and I'm just looking on Transfer Market. As I say, he's a defensive midfielder. He can also play as an orthodox central midfielder. As I say, he's a free transfer. He's right-footed. And like I say, his previous clubs include Club America, Club Tijuana, again in Mexico, River Plate, Defensa. So he's been around. And as I say, 30 years of age. That's probably the one thing that I look at and go, that's not really going to drop our age profile so much. But then you sort of have to realize that, look, we're not going to make every signing we pull in is not going to be 23, 24 years of age. That's just a fact. And at some point, as I say, you need a little bit of experience brought into the ranks. And I don't think we've done too badly with that in certain points. For example, recent ones I use are Pablo Zabaleta and Lucas Fabianski, players who came to us well into their 30s and yet gave good service, good value for money. Okay, so I think in actual fact, this could be a really good signing. And I'm just going to reference, as I say, I think that this is actually pretty far down the track because according to this article I'm looking on Inside Football, it says that we have accepted the contract terms of the target. In other words, obviously the player has turned around and said, well, I'm a free agent. What I want is a signing fee of this, a contract of this length, and I'd like wages of this. And it would appear that we've turned around and gone, yep, no problem. And Tim Stuyton, according to this article, is hard at work to deliver this particular signing to Julian Lopetegui. And it would appear that he's going to be, what it says in quotes here, hold a final meeting with the agent of the player today. So this is in pretty advanced stages, ladies and gentlemen, pretty advanced stages indeed. So I think this could be a good signing. I think this, like as I say, he's obviously got a good pedigree about him. International player, got a lot of experience. He's already got a partnership. He's had a prior partnership with Edson Alvarez. So that's a good thing. It's not like he's going to come in and they're going to take a little bit of time to get to know one another. They played together for a previous club. So that's a good thing. He will know, I'm pretty sure, the dynamic of West Ham because of Pablo Fornals. I think they would have had conversations prior. And obviously, he will have conversations when he's in, assuming he does come in, with Edson Alvarez. There's obviously possible. I don't know what his English is like, but again, we've got people in the squad. Again, Alvarez is one example. People that speak the Spanish language. So I don't think there's going to be any problems with him coming in and bedding in and getting to know the players that are around him. As I say, he may well speak very good English. I really don't know about that. But I think this is a good signing potentially. But let's have a little look. Got a couple of comments that have popped in while I've been waffling on. And Michael's in there. Michael, hope you are well. And Michael says it may be more smoke and mirrors going on. Just on that, just to slightly diverge away. You say smoke and mirrors. And I stopped and thought about it. I know we did the stream the other day with Crescencio Somerville and Nicholas Fulkrug as the topic sources. And I came away from it afterwards, and there was something that triggered. And I actually said it on I think it was West Ham Network last night on a stream with Russ, where I, in the interim, in the sort of like the time since I've done that stream, I've sort of come away and I've thought, I wonder. And I do wonder with Fulkrug whether it's a little bit of saber rattling on the part of Tim Stein and on the part of West Ham to try and get Villa to maybe make their demands a bit more reasonable. And whether it will work, whether it doesn't, I don't know. Whether we sign Fulkrug or Duran, I don't think we've got to sign them both. I think if we sign Fulkrug, then Duran is not going to happen. That's it, done. But all the time that we haven't got Fulkrug in the building, then I do wonder whether the Duran deal is actually as dead as people make it appear to be. I do wonder also whether there's also this thing of the fear of Aston Villa, and I can understand it. Don't get me wrong, I can understand it, of them not wanting to do the business. And look, they're going to have to, because fundamentally they have got a player essentially that has done what Payet did and down tools. So once you've got a player that does that, there's really no way back from that, I don't believe. So I think the best that a club can do in that situation, again, and we know that from the time when Dimitri Payet did what he did back in 2017, 2016. Yeah, I think it was early 2017 from memory, wasn't it? The best you can do is get as much money as you can for the player and fuck him off out the door. That's the best thing you can do, right? So we know that they've got a player that's not happy. We know that as the days tick past, their opportunities to move him on become ever dwindling. And it may well be that they end up selling him to us. I suspect that they will sell him to us. I suspect that they will drive a hard bargain, and they should. They're a football club. They're a business. They've got to look after themselves. That's not a problem. And obviously we will do the same, and that's completely correct. But I do think that it will be done after we've played the first game of the season at London Stadium against Aston Villa. Because I think that it would be quite embarrassing for them, don't you think? For even if they got what they're after, even if they got the asking price and we went, yep, no problem. We put our hands into our pocket and we gave them everything they wanted. I think that the embarrassment level in Birmingham would be immense if he scored at the very least the winning goal in the game at London Stadium against the team that he's just left. I think that it would be quite a bit of egg on the face of the hierarchy at Villa Park. So I've got a funny feeling that the deal will be done in some format, but it will be after that match. That's my opinion. And if you guys have a different opinion on it, you've got the comment section. Get stuck into it. Give me your take on it. But I do wonder whether there's smoke and mirrors going on with Duran, Fulkrug, and all the rest of it. But in terms of Guido Rodriguez, I'm not entirely sure whether that's the case. Although I have to say, and I don't know about you guys, defensive midfield, I'm not quite sure, is a position that I believe that we would actually need to strengthen. Again, you may disagree, and you've got a comment section. Fire away, not a problem. We'll get stuck into it. But I do look at it and go, really the priority positions for me are left wing, which I believe is going to be filled by Crysencio Somerville, hopefully, if he comes in. Once he's signed, then that's that problem dealt with. Striker, Fulkrug, Duran, whoever. Right back, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Kyle Walker-Peters, one of those two, I suspect. Probably more likely Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but we'll see. I wouldn't have really said that a defensive mid would have been a priority, in my opinion, because when you look at it, we've got Edson Alvarez can play there. We've got Thomas Soucek can play there. We've got James Ward-Prowse can play there. I think you'll also find that in a pinch, if he's needed, I think Freddie Potts could play there quite happily, actually. So there's a few players that we could slot into defensive mid if there was a problem. So personally, I'm not quite sure that I'd have been going for a defensive mid. But however, I don't know what the inner workings of the mind of Julian Lopetegui or Tim Steidten are. I guess we're going to find out if this signing comes to pass. Adrian pops in. He says, we are 4 or 5 signings away from a very good squad. Now, the problem, I'm just going to stop there, Adrian, before I carry on. I don't think we're going to make as many signings as that in this transfer window. I don't think we could afford to, even if we got in free transfers like Guido Rodriguez would appear to be if it comes off. But I think probably from here on in, if we got, like I say, a striker, a left winger, a right back, and if we got Guido Rodriguez, I think that would probably be it. I'd be surprised if we stretched to 5. I think 3 is an absolute minimum for me. 4 would be great. 5 would be outstanding. But they need to obviously be quality players. They need to be players that are fundamentally better than what we've got. I think it's Gio that has that expounds the narrative that instead of buying squad players that are just going to sit on the bench, obviously we've done that in the case of Wes Foderingham. I have an opinion on that. But instead of buying players that strengthen your bench, buy players that go straight into your first 11 and push the incumbent onto the bench. That's just my way of thinking of it as well as Gio's. Adrian goes on to say, the problem is we can probably afford to buy 2, but the remainder will need to be 1 player out to allow 1 player in. Possibly. Again, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend that I know the financials that go on at London Stadium. I really don't. But we need to do some business. I think it's fairly clear that we've got a squad that is, number one, it's aging. That's the first thing. Number 2, I think it's under-resourced, shall we say. It's massively under-resourced for me. I think we've got a depth or a lack of depth, both in terms of numbers and in terms of quality. You know, we've let players go, and all right, maybe they were squad players. I get that. But the likes of Thilo Kehrer, the likes of Pablo Fornals, the likes of Saeed Ben Rama, look, maybe their race was run, correct. I get that. But if you're letting players go, then you need to replace them with something. That's just the way it is. Michael comes in. He says, Tim's playing poker and his bluff seems to be working. Apparently have dropped their price to 25 mil. Now, I'm not quite sure I believe it. And I'm not too sure. I've heard those reports as well, Michael. And look, that it may actually be that there's some validity in it. I guess we're gonna see. They're gonna get more desperate as this window winds on. They are going to get more desperate. Like I say, I suspect the deal will be done once the game at London Stadium is done and in the history books. So that's just the way that I sort of read it. But I think that eventually they may well they'll be forced to, come to the table and do some negotiating. And we're hopefully then going to find some common ground to get a deal done. We need a striker. We've needed a striker for a good many years. So hopefully, if we can get the right player in, because you'll remember we've had strikers that have come in on big transfer fees, big reputations, big expectations, and for whatever reason, it's not worked out. One example being obviously Sebastian Haller. Now, I actually liked Sebastian Haller. I thought he was a really good player. I thought he was a good striker, and he came in under Manuel Pellegrini. Obviously, that didn't turn out so well, and then David Moyes came in, and it was fairly clear from the get-go that the style of football that Moyes wanted to implement and the skill set and the what Sebastian Haller could bring to the party they weren't aligned. They just weren't aligned. And obviously he moved on. Ajax, Borussia Dortmund, obviously he had that battle with, was it testicular cancer, I believe, and which obviously has sort of like put a little bit of a bump in the road for him, to put it mildly. But yeah, and then obviously we had Gianluca Scamacca. He comes in, and that was a weird one because it was like, well, that presumably was a signing that Moyes endorsed, you would have thought. And yeah, it didn't work out there either. And it's just like, it's really weird. We just seem we have a problem with strikers in top level football, or top division football, in that, as I say, I've mentioned this before, we have not had a striker score 20 league goals or more in a top flight campaign since 1986-87, which was Tony Cottee. I mean, for God's sake, 87 to 2024. And for the most of that, it's not like we've been out of the top flight for the majority of that time. For the majority of that time, we've been in the top flight. And we've not had a striker that scored 20 goals or more in the top flight since 87. Fucking hell, that's a joke. But that's West Ham for you. What can you say? Michael comes in. He says, we had 3 gems in the youth team for midfield if needed. Potts, Earthy and Alford. Bingo. Absolutely. I mean, I'm on that particular narrative as well, Michael. I think that I want to see those 3 get some good game time. They're not going to play 20, 30, 40 games this season, and I don't expect they should. But I do think that what we need to do, hopefully, as I say, Julien Lopetegui has a pedigree, he has a backstory where he's managed youth grade teams, Spain under 16s, 18s, 21s, whatever. Okay. So I'd like to think that he has something of an interest in bringing players through from a youth age into senior football. So hopefully he will find a way to give these guys opportunities. I think we've had opportunities. I mean, obviously Potts was on loan at Wickham, but I do think there were multiple opportunities last season where other players that were, and there were times when we had youth players sitting on the bench. Let's not forget, we had Divine Mubama sitting on the bench. We had George Earthy sitting on the bench. Yes, okay, he came on, he scored a goal. He also had the game where he got carted off after he got a whack. Lewis Orford, Kalen Casey, Ollie Scarles, players like that. Callum Marshall. I want to see these guys when there's a game, and it will happen during the season, home or away, league or cup, doesn't matter. There are going to be games where the outcome is determined by a certain point. You know, you're 3-0 up or you're 3-0 down with 10, 15 minutes to go. You know the sort of games. And they're the games when I'd be saying, right, get that kid that's sitting on the bench, get him on the pitch. We had multiple opportunities last season under Moyes, and I'm hoping that this season under a manager whose part of his backstory is managing youth grade teams, he will have that as something that he holds dear to his heart. Fingers crossed, because I think these 3 are cracking players and could save us an awful lot of money in years to come in terms of transfer fees, etc. Martin, thanks, mate. Do appreciate it. Good to see you as well. Hope everything is good in your part of the world. Ultra 505, hope you are well. Yes, that's another one I've heard. It looks like Wan-Bissaka is off to Inter Milan, but again, I sort of wonder. I know that Inter Milan, they're a big club, European football, former European champions multiple times, Serie A winners multiple times. Milan, great city in Italy. Lots of things that are going for that. But, look, he's a London boy, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So I think we should, whatever we can leverage. Okay, we haven't got European football. And I do think that that's causing us a little bit of a problem because we can't attract certain players that previously we might have been able to when we had the European football. And even if it was the Conference League, if you have some sort of European football, you are going to be more attractive to a certain caliber of players. Obviously, the higher the European competition, the higher the caliber of players you can attract. That's a fact. Okay. We all know it. We haven't got European football this season. So we are not as attractive a proposition. I get that. They're obviously going to have European football. We can't offer him that. But what we can do is we can offer him that he can stay, he can be close to his family. He hasn't got to sort of, be back and forth from Italy to London. He can come back to London where his family is. He can be comfortable. He hasn't got to fuck around learning a new language or any of that bollocks. He can come and play for us. We need a right back. He needs a club because I think his race is run at Manchester United. I think he's a really good player. I think defensively he's super solid. Going forwards, that I think is the criticism in his game. I also wonder about his injury record. And when you look at the last couple of seasons, the worry for me is that when you look at the amount of games that he's been missing due to injury, the last 3 seasons, each season it gets slightly more games that he's missing. And that is kind of the thing that I'm a little bit worried about. 3 seasons ago, I think he missed, I don't know, I'm just completely going off the top of my head here. I heard it this morning on TalkSport. I think they said 3 seasons ago, he missed about 8 games. 2 seasons ago, he missed about 15 games. Then last season, I think he missed about 21. It was something like that. Each season, he missed progressively more matches. And just wondering, and I'm not saying he's old, don't misunderstand me, but is it a case that he's getting a certain amount of miles on the clock and his body's starting to have a little bit of a problem with it? That is the one concern I've got. Again, we'll wait and see how that plays out. Ultra 505 comes back in and says that the last good striker that we had was Ashton. He was fantastic, Dean Ashton. What a player, and what a footballing tragedy in that he never fulfilled his potential. I mean, he could have been anything he wanted to be. Let's have it right. I think it's pretty accepted that he was on a trajectory that had Sean Wright-Phillips not smashed into his ankle in that last training session, he was on a trajectory that he wouldn't have been at West Ham for probably another year. A year down the track, he'd have been off to one of the big clubs, probably Manchester United. Obviously, they were the top team at the time, top team in England, one of the top teams in Europe. He'd have very likely gone to a club of that stature. And obviously, what happened, and it didn't quite work out that way. He was a fantastic striker. I mean, we've had some decent strikers since. I mean, I don't think maybe we've seen the best of a lot of them. And one example I would say would be Chicharito. I mean, Chicharito, absolute poacher, instinctive finisher. It just never worked out for him here. It just seems that we're a little bit of a graveyard when it comes to strikers. So I think what we have to do a lot of the time is we have to get someone that's a winger and shove them up front. Michail Antonio and Jared Bowen being 2 cases in point. Michael comes back in. He says they need at least 150 minutes game time in a season, or it will be off skis again for them. Yeah, no, I think you're right, mate. As I say, I want to see those youth players getting utilised. I want to see them getting experience. I want to see them. I want to see them feeling that there's a career path. There's a progression, a very clearly mapped out potential progression. And the thing is that the manager can give them the opportunity. Okay. It's up to them to grab it. Now, if they come on and they don't grab the opportunity, if they don't show the very best of themselves, thanks very much, kid, but we're going to sort of see you off now, and it's not for you at this moment in time. Maybe it will happen down the track. And again, it does happen. I mean, one case in point where to highlight that can happen is obviously Josh Cullen. And Josh Cullen, obviously, young player, came through the ranks, never quite made it at West Ham. He went away. He played for Burnley. He played for Anderlecht. In fact, I think he was captain of Anderlecht. I think he went Anderlecht first, then he came to Burnley. I'm trying to remember. I think it was that way round. Yeah, I'm sure it was. And he was captain of Anderlecht, 5 minutes after he walked in the door. So, it can happen where there's a player that is a youth player that doesn't quite crack it, goes away, learns their craft, comes back, and maybe sort of like they're at a point when they're 24, 25, when you look and you go, actually, there is a Premier League player there. But when they were 18 or that, so you couldn't really see it. David, hope you are well. Thanks for joining us. Thank you very much indeed. And as I say, any of you guys that are watching us for the first time, that please do drop a like on the stream. Doing that, just in case you don't know, number one, it's free. Okay. Number two is that it means that the algorithms that YouTube uses will filter this content out to places otherwise it wouldn't have got. So just that small action is really, really key for growing this channel. Another thing that's key for growing this channel, quite honestly, is that when you pop up and you see me waffling into my webcam like this, that you give us a subscribe and hit the bell icon, because what will happen then is that when I do a live or I kick out a bit of recorded content, you'll get a notification on your device that will say Gatesy's on the small screen, and you can come and join me. Really do appreciate it. And why not share the channel URL onto your social media, so your Facebook, your Twitter, and all the rest of it. And let's see. I mean, we broke 600 subscribers. Now, I get it. Look, we're not West Ham Fan TV. We're not Hammers Chat. We never will be. I do this for a bit of therapy, a bit of a hobby, if you will, a bit of a laugh, a little bit of the social interaction. I really enjoy it. I can't do this as a full-time thing. I haven't got the time with my job, with my family responsibilities, but I do enjoy it. And obviously I have to have a little break every now and again, because whatever, as last couple of months, I've not been around, as you may well have noticed, some of you that are the regulars. But I do appreciate you guys sort of helping me out. And as I say, if you can sort of spread the word a little bit by doing those small things, because as I say, it doesn't cost you anything, but it does help the channel out tremendously, and I do appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you. Right, Michael. AWB has agreed terms with us, but stumbling block was he wanted a £5 million payoff. Man United refused, so put the price up to 18 mil to cover it. That's nice of them. That's really nice of them. Is he? Let me ask you a question, Michael, and if anybody else wants to jump in, please feel free. So if they've put the price up for Wan-Bissaka for 18 million, just hypothetically, and I know we don't know the financials as far as profit and sustainability and all the rest of it, I've got no idea, but let's just park that. Is Aaron Wan-Bissaka worth an 18 million pound investment as far as the transfer fee is concerned? Because if we're seriously at a point where we're haggling over 5 million, I mean, what really does £5 million get you in a transfer fee in Premier League football? It gets you fuck all. If we're actually, essentially penny pinching, and all right, £5 million to us mere mortals, fucking hell, I'd retire tomorrow if I had £5 million in cash in front of me, fucking hell. But for a Premier League club, £5 million is nothing. If it was 10 million, then I think you'd go, oh, well, hold on a minute. You wanted 15 million quid, and now you wanted whatever, you wanted 15 million, now you want 25, or whatever the example is. I think you would walk away. But I think if you're sort of like, if you've got one of these little Mexican standoffs where the player's saying, well, I want I want this payoff, and the club are going, fuck off, you're not getting it. And then there's that little bit of, well, I'm not giving ground. Well, I'm not fucking giving ground. And you've got that sort of bollocks going on in the background. It's like, and we're sitting there going, well, for fuck's sake, can you just sort of sort it out between you, for fuck's sake? I do wonder whether there's sort of going to be scope where, as I say, maybe Man United will stump up half of it and we'll stump up the rest. I don't know. There must be, again, where there's a will, there's a way. There's got to be some common ground that can be found. If everybody wants the deal to be done, if Wan-Bissaka wants to stay in London, if Man United want him off the books, And if West Ham want to get a right back in, okay, we're all agreed with that. Let's just do the fucking deal and sort of like worry about the 5 million quid. We'll sort it out. Just get on with it, for fuck's sake. Really does wind me up. Ultra comes in and says, we need to have patience with Stight, I've seen people jump on his back, but miracles don't work overnight. Sullivan is still a problem getting involved with his favourite agents like Salthouse. I agree. I do agree. We've had problems with transfers going back many, many years before Tim Stighton. And I do think that the problem still exists because the guy at the top is the same guy, Sullivan. So I think he just needs to keep his fucking nose out. All you need to do, Mr. Sullivan, with all due respect, is sign the fucking checks. That's it. That's all we need you to do. We don't need you to do anything else. We don't need you to sort of like go to the manager and go,
oh, this is a player that I'd like you to sign, Mr. Lopetegui. And I'm going to get a backhander,
allegedly.
I'm going to get a nice little brown envelope full of stuffed £50 notes, nice and crisp. And it'd be really good if you could sign him.
Yeah, fuck off, mate. Keep your beak out. Just sign the fucking checks. That's all we need you to do. Ultra comes back and says, what do you think about Amanda Staveley possibly buying shares in the club? Look, I think what she did at Newcastle, I don't think you can argue it. I think that it's she did a really good job there. She took them on to another level, or she was the catalyst for it. I mean, obviously she didn't own it. She was the sort of like the face, the public face, obviously. I think it's a fairly well-established fact that the PIF, which essentially is Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, is actually the guy that is the puppeteer, the sort of like the guy that's sort of got the sort of like the pulling the strings, and the guy that's got the purse strings as well. Amanda Staveley was just a front, and she did a good job. And obviously, I'm led to understand that she got involved in engagement with the fans and really tried to sort of do whatever. But would she fit in at West Ham in its current dynamic? Well, I'm not entirely convinced she would. But if she's going to put new money, invest in the club, then, and you've just mentioned it there, Michael, that's kind of what I'm hinting at, that particular dynamic, that I'm not quite sure how that would work out. But, if she's going to put money on the table, I think she got 500 million quid. Did I hear that right? From her involvement with Newcastle, and obviously her and her husband have got a few bob as well besides. So listen, anyone that's going to put a decent amount of money in, I mean, there are things that I would be quite averse to. I don't think I'd be too keen if, put it this way, if Mohammed bin Salman had turned up a couple of years ago and had bought West Ham, yeah, okay, great. We've got this bottomless pit of money now that is going to propel us on, and this and that and this and that. But it's the stuff that's behind that. Do you know what I mean? The alleged beheadings of journalists in Turkish embassies and all that sort of shit. Yeah, not quite sure. If that would be something I'd be on board with, to be truthful with you. Michael comes in, says, next season we need to unite the fan base and get behind Loppy and the team. It was quite fragmented. And I got to be honest, I did feel quite conflicted with the previous incumbent of the manager's chair, in the sense that on the one hand, he is without question, is without question, our greatest ever Premier League manager. No manager in the Premier League era had done what David Moyes had done. In fact, it could be argued he may even be our greatest ever manager. Now, there will be people of a slightly older vintage, such as myself, that would argue that Greenwood and Lyle are ahead of him in that particular accolade. But at worst case, he's third, I would suggest. Having said that, the football was fucking horrendous. Even though we won a cup, I mean, like I say, I was there in Prague, wasn't in the stadium, but I was in Prague with two of my three children that night. It was great. But that aside, I mean, like I say, I come back, I will tell the story, and as I say, this is not an exaggeration. Last season, we played Sheffield United at London Stadium. It was fairly early in the season, maybe about, 8 games, 10 games in, something like that, Premier League games. We were 2-0 up at half time, and in the second half, I was literally nodding off. That says it all. That says it all. That was why I was quite conflicted, because on the one hand, I thought his achievements you cannot argue with. In terms of our history, in terms of what we've done comparatively in the past, compared to what he managed to achieve in a fairly short space of time, but then having to stomach the football, yeah, it was one of those. Ultra isn't AWB a sort house client? And Ultra obviously comes back and says he thinks he is. Well, isn't that a surprise? Isn't that a surprise? Who'd have thunk it? Staveley is much better than Brady. She's hardworking. She is, but I think that I don't think you can level. That's one thing I don't think you can level at Karen Brady, Baroness Brady. She is a hard worker. I don't think that she's a particularly nice person. I don't think that she necessarily does everything with the best interests of the club at heart. It's certainly not of the fans. I don't think you can argue that she is a hard worker, in my opinion. Yes, she has 500 mil to invest in us or Spuds. Well, yeah. It depends, doesn't it? If Joe Lewis wants to do any sort of business, 500 million quid's a lot of money. Wouldn't be something that I think we can afford to dismiss out of hand, but there you go. We'll wait and see what happens. Staveley goes to the Middle East, comes back with a deal, while Brady goes to the Middle East and comes back empty-handed. Lyle Greenwood Moyes, says Michael. I think that is probably how I would stack them, in my opinion. Although it's arguable, and I think it's generational. I think that anybody that's sort of like maybe 20, 25 years of age, they only know Lyle and Greenwood through probably their dad, their granddad, their uncles, footage that they've seen, archive footage. And probably for them, it's a little bit more difficult. Whereas Moyes, they've obviously seen what we've achieved under him up close and personal. But anyway, so I've obviously gone off on several tangents because obviously you guys have been chopping in the now this I did see. This I did. Well, I say I saw it. I saw the thing on YouTube. I saw the title. I haven't watched it. So if you've watched it, you've got an advantage over me. If you haven't and you're like me and you've just seen the title, then I'd like to know a little bit more, because it could be just a little bit of clickbait. It could be a comment that's been taken out of context. I don't know. I'm going to have to go away and I'm going to have to watch that interview. I've got to say, I do enjoy the Simon Jordan upfront interviews. They are really good. I've enjoyed them. And I'm actually someone who actually sort of has a bit of a like and a respect for him. He says what he thinks what he says, and it's not always universally popular, and that's life. But if you get easily pissed off, I don't recommend watching it. So you have watched it, Ultra. Now I'm even more curious. Am I easily pissed off? No, it does take a little bit to get me there, but I do have a tolerance level. But I think I'm going to watch it now. Michael says, don't watch it. He would make a good Starmer. Oh, fucking hell. No, not him. But still, is he better than that? It's too early to tell. He's only been in a job a couple of weeks. So, but listen. So where were we? So Guido Rodriguez. I think this could be a good signing. Not sure it's the signing I'd have made myself. I think the defensive mid for me, not a priority in my humble opinion. But as I say, there's a couple of strands to it that has some tenuous links to West Ham, in that he was a former teammate last season of Pablo Fornel's at Real Betis. Another tenuous link, I'm pretty sure, I'm saying this off the top of my head, isn't Manuel Pellegrini the manager of Real Betis? Or he certainly was last season. I'm pretty sure he was. So again, that's another little tenuous link. So again, has he had conversations with Manuel Pellegrini about West Ham? Have there been conversations? My contract's coming to an end. I'm obviously not going to sign. I'm thinking about it. There may have been contacts before, and we only just finding out about it. Obviously, the other thing is that he has previously played with Edson Alvarez when they were together at Club America in Mexico. So that's a ready-made partnership there. Yes, he did. Yeah, Fornals went to Betis. Yes, so that's what I'm saying. There's a tenuous link there already that Pablo Fornals last season played with Guido Rodriguez. And I'm just wondering, I'm thinking out loud, maybe it didn't happen, but were there conversations? Guido Rodriguez knows that his contract's running down. Were there conversations? Was there contact maybe prior? And it's all been kept very, very hush-hush until now it's broke. I don't know. Short term maybe, but don't need plug stopping youth. Again, we're not gonna every signing we're gonna make, not every signing we're gonna make, excuse me, is gonna be 25, 26 years of age, 24, 23, whatever. We are gonna have to get experience in at some point. So long as the general age profile of this squad is less than what it was last season, and we've strengthened, and we've brought through some of the youth players, given them opportunity, and as I say, it's up to them. If they take it, they might not take it. I think Freddie Potts has obviously had a great season at Wickham last season. Obviously, that's a couple of steps down from the Premier League, so this is a step up. But everything that I've seen in pre-season looks good, and I'm very, very hopeful. Michael says one advantage Loppy has, he speaks 4 languages. Well, he speaks a bit more. He probably speaks better English than I do. He probably does. He definitely speaks better English than I speak Spanish. Let's just put it like that. But anyway, I've been waffling on here for about the last 46, 47 minutes, and I've really enjoyed it. I'm going to disappear now, but as I say, guys, really would appreciate it if you could like the stream, put a comment in the section below. Obviously, after I've ended the stream, you can put the comments in. Obviously, the guys that are putting it in live, fine, that's brilliant. I do appreciate it. It's been a good little bit of back and forth. If you could also share this stream onto your social media platforms, so your Twitter, your Facebook, you know, all of those good things that you kids do. Us old farts, maybe not so much. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, you know, so that when we have any new content, you're alerted to it. And don't forget to hit that bell icon, especially. And guys, really do appreciate the support. As I say, we broke 600 subscribers. Last I looked, we was on 602. So as I say, tell your friends we're here. As I say, like the stream. That's the crucial thing. Like the stream. And that will push this out into places it otherwise wouldn't have been. Yep, Michael, you too, mate. And hopefully we can get a moral victory against Crystal Palace. I say a moral victory, a victory. It's a pre-season friendly, so quite honestly, it's about getting minutes in the legs. Hopefully not getting any injuries. Fingers crossed, touch wood. You're welcome, Ultra, and thanks for your involvement as well, my friend. Guys, thanks for joining us, and stay safe. And until next time, come on, you Irons. Please don't forget to support the Iron Supporting Food Banks charity.
The West Ham Massive are pleased to support Iron Supporting Food Banks. They are a group of West Ham fans and friends inspired by the work of other football food banks around the country. They collect food and cash donations for a Newham food bank in Beckton, who supplies sub-distribution centres in the borough 7 days a week and hand out several hundred 3-day emergency food packs every month to families in need. They are also working with other groups to improve conditions for vulnerable adults and children in the Newham community. You can help by making a donation to their Just Giving page. You will find the link to this in the description section of the video details in this stream. Thanks for your support. Come on, you Irons.
Massive!